The House of Representatives is the unicameral parliament of Egypt. On 14 June 2012, the Supreme Constitutional Court of Egypt ruled that part of the parliamentary election had been invalid and ordered a new ballot, citing alleged problems in the election of members. Based on this ruling, the SCAF Military Council declared the lower house of parliament dissolved. However, newly elected President Mohamed Morsi decreed that he was setting aside the decision of the military and ordered the legislature to reconvene on 8 July. On 10 July 2012, the Supreme Constitutional Court voided the president's decision to call the nation's parliament back into session. The Supreme Administrative Court ruled on the 22nd of September 2012 in favor of the earlier ruling of the Supreme Constitutional Court to dissolve the People's Assembly. Formation of the Assembly. The 2014 Constitution that was passed in the 2014 constitutional referendum has put into place the following rules. The House that is elected following the ratification of the Constitution must have at least 450 members. In addition, prospective members must be Egyptian, must be at least 25 years old and must hold an education certificate. Also, the President can appoint, at the most 5% of the members in the chamber. The House sits for a 5-year term but can be dissolved earlier by the President. All seats are voted on in each election. The House of Representatives members are elected by absolute majority of legitimate votes cast. The People's Assembly may demand the resignation of the cabinet by adopting a motion of censure. For this reason, the Prime Minister of Egypt and his cabinet are necessarily from the dominant party or coalition in the House. When the President and House come from opposing parties, this would lead to the situation known as cohabitation. Powers. The House of Representatives has various competences stated in Chapter 5 of the Constitution. According to Article 86, the House of Representatives shall undertake legislation, review and approval of agreements and treaties, review and approval of the state plan and budget, oversight of the work of the executive, discussion of the President of the Republic statement and the government program, amendments to the Constitution, approval of declarations of war and emergency. In practice, the People's Assembly had very little power prior to the 2011 Egyptian Revolution. It was dominated by the National Democratic Party, and there was little substantive opposition to executive decisions. House of Representatives Organization. Speaker of the House. The House of Representatives Speaker presides over the House and is elected from the House membership, along with 2 deputies during the first session of the season. The Speaker's role in session is to keep the peace and order to the parliamentary session, take part in discussion provided that he gives up his presidency to one of his deputies and doesn't return to his presidency until the discussion is finished, as well as ordering an emergency session for one of the House committees. In case of vacancy in the President's office, the Speaker serves as acting President until the presidential elections are held. This has happened once, when President Anwar Sadat was assassinated in office, and then People's Assembly Speaker, Sufi Abu Talib served as acting President. The last past Speaker was Saad al-Khatani, who briefly presided the Assembly for only 5 months from the 23rd of January 2012 to the dissolution of Parliament in the 18th of June 2012. Speaker's Staff Office. The staff is responsible for organization of the House and its committees' agendas, the enforcement of the House orders, and is the link between the House and different agencies, ministries and other authorities. The staff consists of the HR Speaker and his 2 deputies. House General Committee. This committee is formed in the beginning of the House annual season, headed by the Speaker. Its membership includes the deputy speakers, representatives of the political parties' parliamentary committees, and 5 House members. The Speaker is responsible for outlining the committee's agenda. The committee is responsible for discussing the general issues put forward by the President, the Prime Minister or the Speaker. Specialized committees. These 18 committees are: Constitutional and Legislation Affairs Committee, Budget and Planning Committee, Economical Affairs Committee, Foreign Relations Committee, Arab Affairs Committee, Defense, National Security and Mobilization Committee, Proposals and Complaints Committee, Religious, Social and Religious Endowments Affairs Committee, Health and Environmental Affairs Committee, Transportation and Telecommunications Committee, Housing, Public Utilities and Reconstruction Committee, Local Government and Public Organizations Committee, Youth Committee, Manpower Committee, Industry and Energy Committee, Agriculture and Irrigation Committee, Education and Scientific Research Committee, Culture, Information and Tourism Committee, Ethics Committee. This committee is formed in the beginning of the House annual season, headed by one of the HR Speaker deputies. The membership includes the heads of the following committees: Constitutional Affairs and Legislation, Religious, Social and Awqaf Affairs, and Suggestions and Grievances, 5 members of the General Committee, and 5 members chosen randomly from the House. This committee is responsible for looking into the violations committed by House members towards the Egyptian society's code of behavior towards religion, social standards, etc. Ad hoc and combined committees. The ad hoc committees are formed by the suggestion of the Speaker or the request of the government to study, debate on a new bill or law, voting on the ratification of a new law or bill or a special issue of concern. The Speaker is responsible on choosing members for this committee. The combined committees are formed by the request of the Speaker, the government, members of 2 or more of the specialized committees, with the aim of studying a particular issue of concern. These combined committees are headed by one of the Speaker's deputies. The orders of these committees are issued when a majority vote is achieved. Parliamentary Chapter. The Egyptian House of Representatives is the Egyptian representative of the International Parliamentary Conventions. This chapter aims at developing of mutual relations with international parliaments. The General Assembly of this chapter consists of the entire membership of the House, and headed by the Speaker. The Executive Committee of this chapter of the Speaker's Staff Office. 3 members chosen from the Assembly membership, of whom at least one is a member of the opposition parties. The Assembly meets in its chapter form every January. Emergency sessions are held by the request of the Executive Committee to look into any of additionally outlined issues of concern. http://www.misrawi.com/news/2005/egypt/october/31.asspx elections 2015-2011 Sources: Aram Online, Al-Masri Al-Yum, Al-Amaram 2010. This box. View. Talk. Edit.